Well, howdy and welcome to Monday's edition of Today's Bread. Now, this week's topic is the Spirit-filled life, and today we're focusing on living according to the Spirit. Our scripture reference is Romans chapter 8, verses 12 through 14. Now, previously in Romans 8, the apostle described the great victory in the Spirit that is experienced by those who follow Christ. Here, he began to describe how a Christian should live in response to this victory. The flesh might be defined as the pull or inclination towards sin every person experiences as he or she goes through life. This pull exists even after a person becomes a follower of Christ. But there is one dramatic difference. The Spirit helps us resist the pull. Verse 12, without Christ, we were on our own to resist it, resulting in bondage to sin. But now we have the Spirit, and with the Spirit comes a very different obligation. We are to live according to His leading. Paul described the contrast of these two obligations in verse 13. The flesh is linked to death, so if we follow it, we will experience everlasting destruction. But in the Spirit, we find life. It is our obligation as believers to live according to the way that leads to life. By the Spirit, we put to death the sinful acts and ambitions of the body, verse 13. This verse describes our sanctification, a term that can be defined as the act of God by which a Christian becomes holy and in conformity with his or her status as God's follower. Now, we are in one sense sanctified at salvation, but sanctification is also a process by which we conform to the holiness God demands of His people. Sanctification is not an option for the Christian. As we are led by the Spirit, we increasingly come into conformity by the image of Christ, or with the image of Christ. You can see it in verse 29 of Romans 8. Paul made it clear that the children of God, by definition, are those who are led by the Spirit, or in other words, live according to the Spirit. Just as those living by the flesh follow its desires, those who live by the Spirit seek to live in a way that honors God and fulfills His plan for us. This does not mean they are perfect or we are perfect. Rather, it means that we fight against the flesh in order to instead do the will of the Father. You can see it in Romans 12:2. Now, Monday's prayer focus. Pray for the young people to be nurtured in character, courage, and purpose as they grow into future leaders. Now remember, Jesus is coming back soon. Here's Monday's blessing. I bless your feet and hands to be ever outstretched to help those in need. Thank you. You know, church is not a place you go to. It's a family you'll belong to. So come be a part. Now until next time, keep breaking bread with the bread of life, Jesus Christ.